Barnegat. The word has weight. What she lacks in depth, she makes up for in distance. 42 miles of beautiful brackish water stretching from Bayhead in the north to Little Egg Harbor in the south. Millions cross over in hopes of reaching Seaside, Beach Haven, the ocean. But those in the know choose to stop at her mucky shores.
Makes me think of a place that involves a lot of people in a lot of different ways. Motorboaters and fishing and crabbing and sailing, but it also means, people back in the pines enjoying the source of the water in Barnegat Bay, valuing the streams that feed the bay. The bay is a sort of a report card on what's going on the land around it. And if the bay is in good, clean shape, then that tends to mean that the people around the bay are in harmony with nature.
Hidden away down a gravel road, nestled in a cove of marsh near Swan Point, stands a multi-generational family-owned business. For nearly a century, names such as David, Lolly, Tom, and Mark have become entwined with the local community.
It's pretty unique, it's pretty different.
Beaton's is timeless.
It's not too much different than Boyards used to be years ago.
The wood shop has been there since the late 30s, early 40s, but it kind of smells the same. You walk in the shop and you smell the scent of cedar and oak.
Everything's not clean and spick and span. Some things are never thrown away. We'll find a use for that.
It's still rickety, it is a special place.
The stove, it's got a place burning through from overuse. That adds to the ambiance, shall we say.
What started out as a home for wooden creations has evolved over the years to include the craft of sailmaking.
I think my grandfather always thought there could be a sail loft up here. For years this place was storage and rigging and painting boats. My dad at the time was running the boatyard along with my uncle. So I spent probably 2.5 months, 3 months cleaning it out and opened the doors that used to be at the east end of the building and just started throwing stuff out. Making my pit for my sewing machines, buying my machines and getting set up, and then started making sails. We do a panel layout, develop a shape, and we export it to a machine that will cut the fabric. And you're left with all these pieces, which then you assemble. We use double-faced tape to stick one seam to the next seam. We take it to a sewing machine, sew the seams up, put the reinforcing on, and then sew the edges and put it in a sail bag and deliver it. I call it a little artsy. When you look at a whole sail after it's been built, and if you've put some thought into designing the reinforcements in the corner and how the windows are shaped and placed, and you want something at the end of it that is pleasing to look at. And then it's also factory work. You kind of have to be able to do all of it. If I could find a really enthusiastic young person who wanted to do this, I'd be very happy to show them the ropes and hopefully pass it on. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I think that the small, custom, private label is pretty much a thing of the past. It's been a long time, though. I've been doing this since the early 80s. But on the other hand, I get to go to a really nice place every day. And I get to look out a window here that has a pretty darn great view. It's a good place to come every day.
I'm just completed my 58th year being here. That's a long time. Well, I have friends that say, you should retire. You could start a shop in your backyard. I can do that now and get paid for it. Well, my 5-mile commute is very nice. That's a plus.
The boatyard known as Beaton's has built many of the great wooden boats of Barnegat Bay: the A-Cat, Sneakbox, Duckboat, and Comet.
Over the years, they started to change to build small racing sailboats. They were made with wood that was local to the area: white oak, red oak, white cedar. And we built 4 of the A-class catboats, which are rather majestic, especially when they're sailing. They're just 50-foot mast. The last boat that I built from scratch was 10 feet long. It was a little lapstrake pulling boat. They had the remains of the original boat. It was built in 1890. I started to make molds and different things for it, and that was really fun. Little steam bent frames and very thin cedar planks, and just a real fun project. And when you look at it, it's like, yeah, that's what it's all about. Most people that work on boats, particularly wooden boats, it's something they just love. But some people get into boat building and they find day after day you're just doing hard, grueling work. Okay, start pulling. Just a little slowly. When it's done, it looks like, wow, those lines flow and everything's wonderful, but somebody had to do it. If you have enough opportunities to do things that are creative and you take some pride in what you do, even if it's sanding and varnishing and doing 3 or 4 coats on a beautiful piece of wood, if you take pride in that, the owner loves it, that has to be important too. To keep a business going for the most part in this area, you have to do repairs, painting, fiberglass work, rigging, spar work. It's just changed. Recreationally, people, they don't want to be thinking all spring about, I've got to work on the boat, I've got to work on the boat. Solid wood is getting to be more of a problem to obtain. Prices skyrocketing. If somebody comes in thinking about buying something out of teak and they say, oh, I need a plank. That looks like this the size I need. How much is that? Oh, that's about $400. There's not very many like it left in New Jersey. There's a few other places, but very few. I can probably think of 30 in Massachusetts and double that in Maine. We're kind of one of the last of the Mohegans.
On October 29, 2012, a storm unlike any other sliced the barrier island across from Beaton's, merging the Atlantic with the Barnegat. Homes, cars, really everything was swept into the cove. It took the crew days to know if all had been lost.
We were just like, this is going to be really bad. I looked at my wife and I said, it's probably a 50-50 chance that I'm not going to have a shop. We got hit really hard here. The ocean broke through right here at the base of the bridge, and pretty much all those houses in Maniloking that got knocked down ended up here in the yard.
We were surprised that all the buildings were still here.
Just a carpet of debris, and the yard itself was still flooded. It was up to our knees in the parking lot.
When we finally got in here, there was between 2 and 5 inches of mud on the floor, oil from miscellaneous tanks, and sewage from the systems across the bay that broke. It just seemed like it would never end.
We had no electricity. It was just one thing after another. 70% of the boats that were stored ended up out in the marsh. They crossed Maniloking Road. Boats were sunk in the slips. The docks were wrecked.
There was piles of boats all over the place. Big boats just stacked up against some of the buildings, and boats that drifted out of here back into the woods.
I don't think we've ever really come back to the number of boats we had stored.
There was a good percentage of boats that were lost. A lot of the people that have boats here have homes on the water. Obviously, if your multi-million-dollar house collapses, you're not thinking too much about your 20-foot boat.
My boat, Sojin, was in the same slip that she's in now. She's about 65 years old, and in retrospect, I should have hauled her, but it seemed like that the storm was going to go north and not make its left turn like it did. And as expected, she sank. She was lifted up and she was impaled for a while on a piling, and there was a large hole in her bow, which I didn't see until I came down. It probably took maybe 2 minutes to decide to do what I could to bring her back, and she's been great ever since.
It was probably 3 months of work to clean the place up, bring the boats back up. We had incredible people. The guys who worked here were amazing. You know, we were tromping around out in the marsh for days, hooking up boats and dragging them back across the marsh. It was pretty crazy.
You just put your mind to, well, I'm going to go in and spend another day and do what you have to do.
It was devastating for us. I think we're recovering pretty well, but you know, it's been a tough one. I think Sandy was a big shake-up for this area, and we're still working our way out of it.
Nature always wants to seek its point of least resistance, and it taught a lesson about the fragility of where we live, you know, life at sea level.
I think our water levels have risen, for sure, on the bay. Seems more so since Sandy. And then I see a point out here, Swan Point, eroding pretty badly. And I think if you look at old maps, Swan Point was like at least halfway across the bay. I'd say in the last 10 years, it's probably cut back 600 feet.
Coastline's always changing, always has and always will. There's obviously an increase in tide level. In 1970, we might have half a dozen high tides where it came up over the parking lot. Now probably average about 30, 40 a year, and they come up much higher. In the last year, we've had it come in this shop 3 or 4 times, half an inch, 2 inches. That's a sign it's definitely coming up.
Generations of sailors and lovers of wooden boats find a nostalgic comfort in the buildings and business that is Beaton's.
I'll never forget, Lolly was still alive. And we were looking out, standing in the shop door, and he said, "It's just great the way people feel so comfortable here." On my blog is a page called Beaton's, and every couple of months someone will write something about the wonderful memories, about how their family had a boat, or how they just came to this place and bought a boat here, and the yard helped them.
Some of it's the continuity of the family. 3 generations have been part of the business. The Beatons always treated people fairly. They did good work and didn't play games with customers. Pretty much what you saw is what you got.
And we go back to the times when people helped my grandfather get this place started, and those are customers, and their kids are customers, and their grandkids are still customers.
I have a passion for sailing. I started out at 6 years old, crewed for my sister first in a sneak box, and our Comet was built at Beaton's. It's a passion, and it's a fun thing for me.
So a lot of people have many, many memories, and it's not just a boatyard. It is a focal point for the community, and I just hope it's here long enough for me to pass the bar.
We're not just some corporation, it's real people. You know, we do have generations of people that have been here, and we just keep helping them every time we can. We care about our customers, and we definitely care about, you know, what's going to happen here, 10 years from now. Hope it keeps going.
The Bay has been patient. She has provided her resource and refuge. Meanwhile, for over 50 years, we have engineered, erected, extracted, there is a balance. We are teetering. Nature will have her reckoning.